Hey Kings, it's ya boy, Teams of Regret. 2023's been a bit of a year, hasn't it? Well, it sure has been for me. I've been super busy lately and I haven't been able to pump out as much or any content really as I want to. But hey, 2023's over, new year, new me, hopefully, which means it's time for me to yap about my thoughts on how Halo Infinite did in the year 2023, or, well, its second year as a game. The short of it is the game did way better than it did in the first year. Granted, that's not really a high bar to pass, and Infinite did stumble a bit this year, but the game is definitely in a much better spot now than it was in December of 2022. When it comes to the details of it all, well, there's a bit to unpack, so let's go in order. Season 3 of Halo Infinite was, in my opinion, a genuine turning point for the game. Just as I expected, the introduction of Forge means 343 can offload a chunk of their content creation duties to the community. Now, you can debate the ethics of using the community as a crutch for your game's content pipeline, but you can't deny the results. In my Year 1 video, I complained about the terrible lack of new maps and how 343 had to resort to recycling the same game modes to even keep players coming back. Thankfully, this is not at all the case with Year 2. This year, Halo Infinite has seen a regular and consistent stream of new maps and playlists for players to play around in, mostly made up of Forge-based maps, but also a handful of new studio-crafted maps. Year 2 also saw the addition of several new game modes and playlists, with the biggest ones being Escalation Slayer in Season 3, Infection in Season 4, and both Extraction and Firefight in Season 5. This of course isn't mentioning the bevy of smaller permutation game modes like Husky Raid, Big Team Heavies, or that other game mode where the player models are really fucking small, and they're all wielding comically sized weapons. Season 3 set the standard for the year, and it really got my hopes up for this game. Which is unfortunate because, in my opinion at least, Season 4 kind of stumbled a bit. See, in the midst of Season 3 and 4 was a major internal shakeup in 343. While it so far proved to be beneficial in the long run, with changes on how cosmetics and the content pipeline is being handled compared to Year 1, I begrudgingly have to admit that the initial results just kinda rubbed me the wrong way. First off was the cancellation of the multiplayer mode's narrative events and storyline. I actually quite liked the multiplayer story. Seeing my Spartan on screen and whatever silly outfit I had kitted it out with was really fun and really felt nice. It was a rush of validation that rewarded me for sticking around and collecting all those cosmetics, other than to, look good for other players while they're shooting at me. So 343 cutting off the multiplayer storyline sucked the wind out of my sails. Not only that, but the Fracture events also got the short end of the stick. Instead of a new Fracture core, we get new pieces for the Yoroi core from Season 1, which I have to admit is sort of my least favorite of the Fracture cores. The combination of these was a 1-2 punch that just didn't sit right with me, which did kind of make me drop the game for a good while. But by the time Season 5 rolled around, I was back in the saddle. I was all in. The promise of Firefight alone was enough to convince me to pick up the game again. The changes to the seasonal and event passes took a bit of getting used to for me. With only 50 tiers on the season pass, it sure felt like a downgrade compared to the last season. Moreover, event passes now occupy the same slot as your season pass, kind of like how the winter update between season 2 and season 3 worked. This means that you can't grind both your season and your event pass at the same time, and that you're locked out of your season pass whenever a new event rolled around. That is, of course, if you haven't bought the season pass, but I digress. However, since event passes are now treated the same as seasonal ones, this does mean that new or returning players who missed out on the event when it originally ran can still pick it up after it expired. This is a system that's honestly leaps and bounds better than a lot of other live service games out there. And given how downright generous Halo Infinite's grind rate has gotten ever since the XP update, now this might be a stretch, but honestly I think Infinite is one of the better live service games out there in the market. That being said, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. While the gameplay and playable content side of things have remained consistently good, everything around it is still a bit of a mixed bag. The previously mentioned changes to the season and event passes were a welcome change, as is the ability to find and purchase store bundles that have been rotated out of the item shop. Cross-core visors, helmets, and coatings have also made customization much more enjoyable as an experience, but the insidious price gouging of item bundles after they get rotated out of the item shop honestly rubs me the wrong way, man. If this is what 343 does whenever they introduce cross-core options, I can only imagine what other chicanery waits us when they finally roll out cross-core shoulders, which I'm pretty sure is something they're testing behind the scenes, as seen on this here screenshot I took of Phil Spencer's Spartan. Besides that, network issues, desync, and cheating still are things that 343 has to deal with, though as of the time of writing, 343 has this new playlist that's supposedly testing out new networking fixes. How effective these turn out to be, well, we'll just have to wait and see. So, all in all, how was Halo Infinite's second year? Well, it's leagues better than the first year, just like I said earlier, but then again, it's also not exactly a high bar to cross now, is it? The game's definitely in a much better state now than it has ever been, and if 343 keeps up the trajectory, it's quite possible that the game can finally turn around the abysmal image that it's kind of earned after it launched over the course of year one. Now, the game definitely feels like it's going on a slow but steady upward trend over the course of 2023, which honestly is in stark contrast to the first year's uncontrollable tailspin. Overall, I'm rather optimistic for the game's future. Anyways, I think that's just about it for this video. Apologies for not uploading for a while, life kinda got busy. Now, I've got a couple games I want to talk about on a future video, though when those come out is still kind of up in the air. But if you do want to hear me talk about other games, maybe even movies, like, comment, subscribe. This has been Teams of Regret, wishing you all good luck and Godspeed. Signing out.
5 enemies remaining. Enemies remaining. Last enemy. Kill. Your team scored victory.